The Sawyer Hannay Show.
Very excited to welcome today's guest. Has been a friend of mine for the past few years, Mr. Andy King. He is an event planner, among many other things. He was really brought to the light, and I believe it was 2017 with the documentary on Netflix of Fyre Festival. That was the festival that never happened, but it was super famous, and it was an absolute train wreck. So looking forward to jumping into that with Andy today. But of course, that was just one event of many that he has planned. So looking forward to diving into all the wonderful things and fun and exciting things that he's done throughout his career, while also touching on the juicy stuff of Firefest. All right, my man, Andy King, welcome. How you doing?
Hey, still standing after all these years. That's the secret.
You, like we were talking about before we started recording, you're still working, still a sucker for punishment.
Still sucker for punishment. Oh my gosh, festival after festival right now. And, my partner and I are living down in Charleston, South Carolina, which a lot is going on there. You and I talked about Nashville.
Yep.
But we've got, it's Darius Rucker. So I do Riverfront Revival for him. And then we host a Bluegrass Music Festival. And now I'm hosting one of the oldest music festivals in the country called Spoleto. And it originated in Spoleto, Italy. And it now takes place here as well. It is 17 days. So it is the last week of May and the first week of June. So it is nonstop for me, and I'm creating like the opening gala and some big fundraisers. And then one of the cool pieces, the aspect of this festival that's so different from many, is that there's a lot of different genres that participate. A lot of classical music, a lot of opera, but bluegrass now, jazz. One of our biggest nights, we're featuring Trombone Shorty, one of my favorite performers. Oh my gosh. And I saw him years ago in New Orleans, but we do a lot of parties at people's homes, which is pretty amazing. So it's like dinner for 100, cocktails for 200. And so I do like 15 of those during the festival. So
wow.
It's a nonstop, a lot of 17-hour days.
So are you contracted by the festival, or is this all private contracts?
By the festival.
By the festival. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the best deal they could ever get, And,
and you mentioned you're in Charleston. You mentioned, like, I've never been there. It's on my list. Is that what drew you there originally? Was just like, is it a festival kind of destination?
My partner knows some pretty influential people here in Charleston. He met years ago. We have kind of a family place up on Cape Cod and a family place in Florida, and Charleston ended up being sort of the halfway point for the two. And it didn't hurt that Charleston is now all about architecture. It's all about history, food, nature, and of course, a lot of music and a lot of festivals. It's that climate, which is pretty flipping hot. Last summer at about 105 degrees most days, for a few weeks there. But other than that, it's just, even today it's cold and it's 58 degrees. It's absolutely beautiful. The sun is out. It's a little bit windy, but so it's a nice climate, but a lot of music going on. So it's keeping me pretty busy.
So do you spend your winters in Florida typically and your summers in Cape Cod, or?
Well, let's just say we were in Florida for a couple weeks at Christmas. We were there a couple weeks in the fall. We'll be there probably next month for a couple of weeks. And then we kind of do the same thing with Cape Cod. But because I'm still working and hosting a lot of these festivals, we don't really have the luxury to go disappear somewhere for, 3 or 4 months at a time. We're on the move, Sawyer. We're on the move.
Right. So is a lot of your work, like, outside of the actual festival, is it all kind of virtual? Like, are you able to work from your home, or do you have to be in those given cities for most of that preparation?
After an initial walkthrough and an initial, few meetings with the partners, the founders, and the principals involved, my niche basically is working with people on helping them establish their timelines, their run of shows, their production schedules, and trying to, and that's something I feel like the music industry has lacked for a long time. Especially in the festival world, is really trying to figure out a way to run it as a business and I got down here and, I was called. Someone said, Andy, can you help us with this big festival? I said, sure. Just send me your run of show, your timeline, and your production schedule, and I'll assess it and tell you what I think I can do. And they're like, are you talking down to us? And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, we don't have that kind of thing. What do you? I'm like, uh-oh. And I say, well, geez, how do you know when the tents are being delivered? Well, no, they always come around the beginning of the week. And what tent company are you using? I don't remember that. I don't remember. Do you have a number for the driver? How about, you have 24 food trucks coming. Do you have a contact name and a number for every food truck? No, they always show up. What do you? I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I feel like I've been a pretty big asset to kind of help, develop and institute structure for them, which I think, obviously, with my history with the Fire Festival, that basically is something vitally important, which a lot of people just don't do. And then I obviously focus these days on a little bit of my celebrity, power, but I focus predominantly now on creating incredible VIP experiences and artist relations experiences for all these festivals. So that's kind of my niche.
Cool. So before Fire, because I don't want to get right into that right away, was this what you were doing, or has that changed since, you kind of went viral and, like you mentioned, that celebrity power? Like, were you just kind of doing this all along, or has things really changed since that documentary dropped?
I think things have changed a lot, but I was known. I had one client in New York City that every year I would host a festival for them, and it was for just 2,000 people, and it was on a pier on the Hudson River, an amazing event. And then I've hosted 2 mini Coachellas in Palm Springs on the Polo Grounds for large corporations as well. So a lot of the events that I would do in the past around the world would often involve developing like a different concept. How do you bring all the food in for a couple thousand people? I would create like parades, and every parade would have 20 floats, and every float would represent a different country. And when the floats went through and everybody's cheering as the parade goes by and on and on, all those floats would end up being a food station at the event or the festival, which is totally cool. So literally the food stations are coming in the form of a parade with like, it's the Caribbean, and there'd be, Caribbean, we'd have steel drummers, and we'd have everybody dressed as the Caribbean, and there'd be jerk chicken on grills or whatever, and then it would end up just being parked as a food station. But I'd create like this huge level of excitement. So the festival world's kind of always been in my blood, but now since Fire, because let's just say, I learned a lot, especially what can go wrong, and what can't go wrong and needs to go right. I'm able to now kind of inject that with a lot of my clients today.
Okay. It's funny when we met at the event, that was before COVID, maybe 2019 or something. I think we met in Toronto.
Yes, it was shortly after the release of the documentary. It was released in January, I think, 2019, and then I did a Canadian tour to like 12 cities or something.
Yeah. Oh, we loved you up here, man. We loved it. We were all in on that. Like, that was awesome.
Yeah, I had a great time. Everybody in Canada was so friendly. I'll never forget, during that time, you probably remember I did a commercial with Ryan Reynolds for Aviation Gin. Yep. And he kept texting me. He's like, Andy, where are you? I said, I'm in and out. I'm in and out. And then I finally said, he said, can you just hop on a call for 5 minutes? I'm like, sure, Ryan. But the reception's not good. He said, where are you now? I said, Winnipeg. He's like, I'm from Winnipeg. What are you possibly doing in Winnipeg, Canada? I'm like, well, I'm speaking to, 500, event planners on how shit can go wrong or whatever.
What not to do.
What not to do. But sorry, we met in Toronto, right?
Yeah, Toronto. Yeah, at the Stack Village. I was there. It was a sponsorship conference, and my colleagues at a music festival, Cavendish Beach Music Festival, were there. I met Mark, I believe, through them, and he was hosting. So I was there. You were there. And I had just recently watched the documentary, and I thought it was hilarious the way that you told the story and how just kind of authentic and things you were. Like, everybody was kind of waiting for a few punchlines, you know, and then you fucking delivered, man. Like you had everybody laughing, and it's such like a corporate environment too, which everyone's feeling it out. You know, how serious is this? You just killed the tension in the room with a few. But one thing that you did mention that really stood out to me that I want to kind of ask you about is you mentioned, you know, okay, Firefest. Everyone recognizes me from Firefest and the documentary and all this stuff, but you had a really, you know, good and prosperous career before Firefest. You know, it's not like that was the only thing you've ever done, and you were running events successfully, many events successfully long before, I guess that one kind of failed out. What, before that, like what was kind of this, like your trajectory in terms of your career? Like what were you working on? What were your successes? Like what were you kind of proud of leading up to, you know, your viral moment?
Well, to give you a little bit of history, you know, I catered my first wedding when I was 16 years old. I didn't even have my driver's license. Food has always been, you know, I'm one of 9 children. My mom loved to entertain. I was always in the kitchen. I wrote a cookbook that was published in 1994 called Quick and Easy Menus for Entertaining. And I had a little cooking show on the Food Network called Chef du Jour. But I always loved the food world, and I always loved the event world. And my cousin gave me a ring when I just moved to New York. I wanted to be close to my publisher, and I was looking at opportunities as far as in the food world in New York City. And he said, Andy, I've got a unique opportunity that's come up. It's only like a 6 or 9 week stint that you know, we need some help trying to launch like an information center at PepsiCo. And, you know, Pepsi owns Taco Bell, Frito-Lay, Pizza Hut, California Pizza Kitchen, you know, down the list. Mm-hmm. And at their world headquarters, Pepsi had been like land-based as like one of the worst places to work. And so he's like, would you consider, you've got such a great personality, would you consider like running this little resource center? It's going to be an area where someone can go. The program is designed to help people balance their work lives and personal lives so that they were happier at home and more productive at work. So you'd call me and go, shit, it's my girlfriend's birthday on Saturday. I completely forgot. I'm like, oh, sorry, got you covered. There'll be, you know, a dozen roses in a limousine that'll be at her office. It'll pick her up at 5 on Friday. I've made reservations for you at the best restaurant. There'll be Broadway tickets too. And you're like, oh my God, you're a genius. And so I was able to do, but then I was also known for like finding a plumber or a babysitter. And so the Wall Street Journal learned about it. And on April Fool's Day, 1993, I was profiled on the front page of the Wall Street Journal as America's first corporate concierge, which is amazing. Really? But back then there's no social media, but then I was on Dateline. I was on the Today Show. I was on the.
But how did that happen? How'd you go from
a resource center? Well,
to the front page of the Wall Street Journal.
Somebody just leaked going, you got to go out to Pepsi and meet this guy, Andy King. So it was like week number 2. And I was like underwater, like, oh my God, tax department calls. We have 200 Japanese executives coming in and we don't know what to do. I'm like, got you covered. I'll put together an itinerary. There's going to be 3 different days, 3 different things, blah, blah, blah. I found an abandoned loft inside Manhattan. Jean-Georges has just written a cookbook. I got him to come and be the private chef. I just so happened to stumble across 200 second row seats to the Elton John concert. There were limos waiting out front. Like, and people were like, who are you, Jesus?
Right.
I'm like,
how'd you make this happen in such a short period of time?
Right. But that's just how my mind has always worked. And so I got a call from somebody in the mailroom, and it was a bit concerned with the PepsiCo executives. They're like, is Andy going to relate well to the high-level executives as well as the low-level executives? And I said, trust me, like, I went to a small high school. There were 39 kids in my class. Yep. Most of the dads were fishermen or carpenters. And so I learned how to blend well with all levels of people. And so the phone rang. It was this guy, Oscar, and he worked in the mailroom. And he'd been working in the mailroom. He was, probably for 20 years. And he came to me and said, Andy, I know this isn't your typical question, but, and he was on disability and, he'd had quite a life. He said, my mom recently fell in Hollywood, Florida, next to Miami, and broke her hip. And she's stuck at home, and I don't know what to do, and she can't get anywhere. And I'm like, Oscar, let me do a little bit of digging. And so my assistant and I did some digging. We got the list of what her insurance package was and what it would cover. And we found a home health care service that came to her house. And we found a woman that would come in 3 days a week and blah, 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 blah. For 1 year, Oscar, who worked, might as well been 5 kilometers away in another building, came by my office every morning to say, good morning, Andy, and thank you for 1 year. And so those kinds of situations came up every once in a while. The Wall Street Journal learned about it through somebody, and they said, you got to go interview this guy. And so the front page of the National Enquirer was, so you're looking for a baby elephant for your daughter's birthday party? No problem. And there I was. I got the baby elephant. But we had a lot of animal rights activists who were picketing out front.
So that's a true story. I thought that was a metaphor.
Yeah. Oh, no.
You got a baby elephant for a kid's birthday?
Oh, and a porpoise that we put into somebody's pool. I mean, it's just, it never ended. And so, God. Literally, the chairman of one of the largest investment banking firms in the world read about me on the front page of the Wall Street Journal and said, we have got to meet this guy, Andy King. So I get the call, like, can you get to our office in Manhattan? I said, sure. So I go in and they said, listen, we're going public on the New York Stock Exchange. It's a big deal. And we want you to host the event for us. We understand you've been doing all these amazing events for Pepsi. And I said, sure. What's your budget? And keep in mind, like the most expensive party I've done for Pepsi was like $350,000, which, it was a fair amount of money for a nice little party.
Yeah. In the 90s.
In the 90s. And so all of a sudden he said, well, we'll spend $1.5 million. And I'm like, I didn't even know what to do or say.
How many baby elephants does that get you?
Oh my God. Let me tell you what that got them. Holy smokes. Yeah. Elton John was lowered from the ceiling to perform. But anyway, so I'm like, and I didn't know how to respond because I'm like, I didn't want to look like an idiot. I'm like,
of course.
Oh, okay. Any flexibility there? They're like, yeah, we'll spend up to like 3 or 4 million if you come up with some great concepts. So I was like, oh my gosh. I bought my first 60-foot sailboat with a commission from that one party alone with a full-time captain.
So how does the commission work? Sorry to cut you off, but how does the commission work on a project like that? You just take a percentage of, or?
I used to take 30% of the total budget.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. Hello.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Do, re, mi. Yeah.
So that one question, is there any flexibility? Just earned you, your sailboat and your captain.
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you. And so that was the start, Sawyer. Like literally from then on, every firm in New York would call, LA, Chicago. Andy, what did you spend on the blah, blah, blah party? I'm like, they'd say $1 million. Ooh, $1.5 million. Oh boy. That's okay, good. If we give you 2.5, can you blow it out of the water? I'm like, oh, sure. And so picture, Sawyer, it was literally the world of the Wolf of Wall Street. So the parties were lavish. Everything was crazy, and I'm not saying everybody was doing cocaine off of people's nipples or tits, but that could be something that was going on. I'm not saying that we had midgets that were on
midget throwing contests there.
Oh yeah, up against Velcro. Like I would be done. Like one party, I would be totally done. You can't do those kinds of things anymore, and it wasn't, And so fast forward, I was blessed to be one of the many producers to produce Beyonce in Central Park in 2014. And business was going strong, like there's no tomorrow. And
so are you an independent contractor at this point?
Yes. Yeah.
So when did you leap from PepsiCo to the independent throughout that 90s kind of growth?
I was only I technically never worked for Pepsi. I was always even an independent contractor with them.
Oh, gotcha.
Setting it up.
Okay.
And I was only there for 1 year. That's what's crazy. And so there I am in Central Park. You'll remember it was the first climate march in the world. And we had 2 million people that came to New York City. It was unbelievable. And Central Park was full with at least 1 million people. And Beyonce performed. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. These people have flown in from every country around the world to support climate change and to really make a stance. And I said, you know what? I love this energy. Concert's over. I look around. There are a couple million fucking plastic water bottles and Solo cups left on the ground. And I'm like, this isn't happening. This can't be happening. And that was my turning point. And I then brought in a partner and we opened a company called Inward Point, where we focused on hosting as close to zero waste events as possible. And there's a whole formula, and we developed a metrics and to measure the carbon footprint. But to make it easy for you, it's like, hey, it's not that hard to go into communities to host a music festival or a large event and hire local fishermen, local shopkeepers,
Right.
serve local food, support 5 local farms. Like, it's not that hard, but for some weird reason, we as humans just don't seem to go in that direction. Everything is just flown in from somewhere else. And oh my God. And it's not that hard to eliminate plastic. It's not that hard to use compostable cups. It's not that hard to pass out water bottles, So that's been what I've been doing since 2014. And then the irony, of course, is that I'm known for the failed blowjob for Fire Festival, where I was willing to go below the head of customs for 200,000 plastic Evian bottles, where I don't allow plastic in any of my events. So how ironic is that?
Oh, man. Yeah, that is... Oh, fuck. I'm pretty sure it was that story that had everybody just like stomach laughing, like in pain laughing at the event, because we were all just waiting, is he going to talk about it? Is he going to talk about the infamous blowjob offer to get the water through at customs? And oh no, that's fucking crazy. So going in now, I guess that's a healthy segue into the Fire Fest. Like, talk to me about, because not everybody, and we'll get into the bulk of it too, but a lot of us don't know, as the documentary didn't really show, a lot of stuff leading up to the event too. Like, how did you get in contact with Billy? How did that all just kind of come about? How did you become interested and invested and start working on things? Like walk me through right from the very beginning of that coming, across your desk.
So previous to Fire, I had been working with Billy for maybe 3 years. Billy founded a company called Magnesis, which was a black credit card for 20-somethings. And
yep.
I came in, I met Billy at an event. And one of the primary visions that he had for Magnesis was creating this amazing concierge service for all the members that have this card. So obviously in comes Andy King, America's first corporate concierge. I'm like, listen, I will help you develop relationships with every gym, every restaurant, every nightclub in Manhattan. I will help you get great deals. I'll help you get travel I'll help you with, so that's what I ended up doing. I became sort of head of his marketing board. And, Billy's a brilliant kid at 24 years old. There he was, just going crazy. That was probably even younger.
So did he grow up in like a rich family or so? Like, what put him on the scene?
So he grew up in the town next to me in New Jersey. So that was one thing that we had in common. And he's from a comfortable family, but both his parents work and they work hard. And but he went to private schools and he was raised comfortably. But he was always a visionary, and he always was like a serial entrepreneur, even in elementary school and high school. He was always coming up with concepts of how to make money. And so the Magnesis piece really took off, and it was very successful. And he was gearing up to sell the company to a larger credit card company, because a lot of credit card companies would love to have that demographic. They're all kids coming out of university. They've all been recruited. They all have big jobs. They're making 100 grand a year, 150 grand a year.
Yeah.
And so credit card companies are like, we want these kids to get our card. So Billy was kind of grooming Magnesis to be, that card that a MasterCard or a Visa or American Express would buy to have his list. And when I first came on with him, he had 300 members. And when, in the end, I think it was at about 14,000 members. So wow. It was pretty incredible. I knew that he was working on a new app called Fire, where you could book famous talent on your phone, eliminate the expensive fees of managers and agents, go directly to the talent. And I loved that idea, because me as an event planner, there I was hosting the opening ceremonies for the America's Cup in Bermuda a few years ago, and we were trying to hire John Legend. And so I called John's manager and his agent. I said, listen, it's going to be a one-night thing. Blah, blah, blah. And they said, okay, $400,000. I said, okay, fine, plus a jet and something else. I said, okay, great. Then I got the call back, like, wow, we didn't realize Bermuda's in foreign waters, so it's not in U.S. territory. So it's 800,000. I'm like, it's an hour and 40 minutes on a plane from Manhattan. What are you talking about? It's not like you got to go to Abu Dhabi, but that's kind of what happens with the agent and management world. So Billy had the concept and the vision to like, okay, how do we make hiring these incredible performers a little bit more cost effective? And so that was the concept. And then he decided to do the official launch for the app on an island in the Bahamas, which I knew it was brewing. I knew it was happening, but then I wasn't communicating it with him very carefully or closely leading up to that. And then I got a call. I was hosting the World Cup Pro-Am Ski Championships in Squaw Valley, and I had my hands full. The phone rang. It was Billy, and Billy's like, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm up in Northern California." It's like, "Well, how quickly can you get to the Bahamas?" I'm like, "Oh God, what's going on?" He said, we really need your help. And at that point, he'd fired 2 production companies already, and he'd been thrown off Pablo Escobar's island because he kept telling everybody he was buying it, but he wasn't. And then he got onto Exuma, very close by, and he had his hands full. And I think red light number 1 should have been, he sent a private jet to pick me up. And I'm like, wow, he's obviously raised a lot of money. The jet's probably $50,000. Like I would grab a first class ticket. I wouldn't really care, but,
So that was your first red flag.
That was the first red flag.
And you were only really brought in once the crisis had already began.
Yeah, I had 6 weeks.
Is that correct?
6 weeks to save it.
6 weeks before the event.
Yeah. That's
when he brought you in. So were you a part of the earlier stages planning, or just at 6 weeks he said, "Oh shit, I need help. I'm calling Andy"?
Yeah, just at 6 weeks. So it would be everybody's living nightmare. So obviously when I give my speeches around the world, I'm like, that's why I focus on timelines. I'm like,
of course,
give me your timeline. Oh, you want to host a festival? You need 9 months. Like, why 9 months? I'm like, well, that's in my mind, 9 months. Yep. 9 months to find your location, find your sponsors, line up your talent, and build your infrastructure to make a successful event. 9 months, not 6 weeks. And 6 weeks where I'm doing it on an island with no electricity, no running water, and no infrastructure. And, as you guys, I'm sure all know how it ended. It didn't end pretty, for sure. But I did my best during those 6 weeks. But I never had a signed contract. I never got paid. I just jumped in and did what I could. And, I'm not Jesus or Mother Teresa. So
it's funny that if he knew you all along, why not involve you sooner, knowing that that's your specialty, Why only call you when it's last chance for romance? Like, why not talk to you 6 months or 9 months, 12 months in advance?
I mean, I wasn't necessarily known for hosting music festivals on an island in the Bahamas. So,
well, who is, to be fair?
Nobody, right. And I'm not even sure how he actually ended up, recruiting the first production team or the second. I don't know how he even located them, but he fired them. Maybe one quit, one got fired, and it was just. In the end, I give speeches on failure now. I give speeches on resilience. And one of the big things that I talk about with top event planners around the world, I'm like, listen, don't be afraid to fire your client. Don't be afraid to say, you know what? It ain't going to work. And it's not only your reputation, it's mine too, that's about to go in the shitter. There is no way we can pull this off with the parameters you're giving me. And I'm basically saying no. And I probably... Did I have the ability to shut it down? Probably. I probably could have shut it down halfway in and just said it's being postponed for 2 months. But, as the world knows, Billy was in deep. He had $29 million worth of investment money.
Wow.
And he had to deliver. There was no turning back. There was no like, maybe next year. Like he had made promises that he needed to keep. That was a lot of pressure for a 25-year-old.
And his marketing should be studied, because the hype that was built for that was unbelievable. So he did that great. I'm sure it was with maybe a reckless budget, but he marketed the event really well, which built all the hype, but then again added the pressure. Okay, now I really need to deliver. I'm taking people's payment. I'm taking people's investment. There's a ton of hype for this event. People are really excited, looking forward to this. I'm sure he felt the heat of, I can't have a public failure of saying, okay, let's postpone it by 8 weeks,
Exactly. And I think that the whole thing grew bigger than he ever dreamed it could possibly grow,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where it was the orange tile, as you're saying. It was everybody posting, every celebrity in Hollywood posting at the same time, like
the influencers, and
unbelievable.
How the hell does a guy from New Jersey that grows up in like a common neighborhood get connected with, what was it, Kylie Jenner, I think was one of them, and Ja Rule, and like how does that even happen? He's charismatic, clearly, like very clearly. He's a very skilled speaker, and raising $29 million. Like, how does that all happen?
Boy, he went into every hedge fund, every investment banking firm, every investment group in New York, LA, wherever, and he captivated a room. I mean, it is definitely a gift. I think one of his initial strategic partnerships, which ironically didn't end up being strategic all the way at the end, but at the beginning it was Ja Rule. And Ja was able to open up a lot of doors for him with famous people. He had the connections. And so that's where I think that really helped Billy get into so many of these different influencers and get them to agree to post and et cetera, et cetera. But, he ended up paying a lot of them a lot of money, and that's right. What's sort of crazy too, is like what Billy ended up doing with Fire has changed the entire trajectory of social media today for influencers. Yep. Because, so many of these famous people all got sued, and they're like, oh, you got paid $250 grand? Oh, and you were promoting something that didn't happen? Like, wait a minute. But they didn't know anything. Like, I didn't know anything.
That's
I mean,
right.
How would you know? How would you know? But now everybody needs to do their due diligence and go, oh, yeah, I'm going to sponsor Sawyer in his podcast. But you want to make sure he's not like lambasting the world and being cruel and, doing whatever. You like, know your shit, know who you're sponsoring. And that, I think, has been a positive. It's been amazing, though, that Fire itself, and I don't know, sorry, if you believe this, but this is what I've been told recently. The brand itself, you can imagine, is worth a fortune. Since its inception, this is what I've been told. Coachella's had 34 million impressions on the internet. Not bad for a local festival here in the United States. I mean, not bad at all. 34 million, approaching 40 million. That's incredible. Yep. Fire, 34 billion around the world.
Holy shit. Wow.
So everybody, and of course, that's the power of Netflix, right? I mean, I was streamed into over 290 million homes around the world. So that's why people know who I am. It's just a totally different world as far as how and when and why things become so popular. But for pop culture, Fire Festival will never go away. No. It's a term that's used all the time. And so I know that some big players have been looking at buying Fire because, if a big player who owns like most of the music venues around the world and hosts most of the festivals, if they announce we've bought Fire, the next Fire's in Abu Dhabi, it'll sell out in 5 minutes. Period.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So who owns that?
Well, that's a whole other good question. Billy lost the rights, but then apparently says he's buying them back. I know who bought them. And he was actually one of the people that was suing us that he attended Fire. Billy let the trademark rights lapse. Now you can see, have you been following him now? I mean,
no. Well, he comes up on my who, Billy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes up on my For You page, but I haven't seen him recently.
Well, you saw. So last summer.
I've seen since he got out of jail.
Yeah. So I was spending time with him last spring. I would fly back and forth to New York, try to help him. Like, how do you it's all about redemption, and the world loves the underdog, right? So I'm like, okay, so how do I help him pay everybody back? How do I help him do the right thing? Because that's sort of my role in his life, was always like, okay.
So you still had faith in this kid? You felt that he went and learned his lesson and come out and a changed man?
Well, so to speak. I mean, first round is that he was at a pretty nice prison in New York State. And he ended up getting someone to bring him something that he smuggled in. And he was spending a lot of time with Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer, and Situation from the Jersey Shore. They were two of his closest buds. Okay. So someone smuggled in for him a recording device in the shape of a pen. So he was pretending he was like writing, because he was always writing a journal or whatever, but he was recording them because he wanted to develop and publish a book. And he was working with a publisher to like Life in Prison and Who Do You Meet, okay. Blah, 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 blah. But he got caught. And so he got sent to a high security prison in Ohio. But Billy's smart, you know, and one of the ways that he survived is that he developed a whole program, whether it was an app or I don't know what, on like how prison inmates can communicate with their loved ones and their spouses and their baby mamas and their wives or their boyfriends or whatever.
This guy's an opportunist.
Totally. So half of them, you know, had an 8th grade education. So he wrote the letters, he wrote the emails, he did everything. And he became like an integral part of their survival in prison. And so he was rather positive. Billy got caught shooting a podcast from prison. We had somebody coming in every Tuesday or whatever to the glass window, and he'd sit there and, you know, and tape Billy for 40 minutes or whatever. And they got caught. And then he got put into solitary confinement for a while. I mean,
holy shit.
It's totally crazy, but he's out. He, you know, he's kind of running a little marketing agency. He's got a concept called Build It with Billy, where people can hire him to like, you have obstacles, you got problems, I'll help you navigate that. And then he's been focusing on Fire Festival 2. So it was last spring. He's like, all right, Andy, I'm going to launch Fire Festival 2. And I said, all right. The beginning of the summer, he announced 100 GA tickets at, I don't know, $1,000 each, whatever. Okay. Sold out in 5 minutes. Following week, he dumped another 100 GA tickets, sold out in 5 minutes. Following week, he announced a waiting list for VIPs, a waiting list. And he raised $3.9 million for people that wanted to get onto a waiting list. Sawyer, for a festival somewhere in the Caribbean, sometime in 2024, right. And some kind of a lineup. Nothing.
With a failed history.
Yeah, enough.
With a history of under-delivering. That's unbelievable. But that, to your point, that shows the strength of Fire, the brand Fire.
It's unbelievable. And so then I go up to Long Island for a week over the summer to help do some promotional things with him. And we had a bunch of investors flying in, and I said, Bill, you know, where are we going to do this dinner? There's like 24 of us. He's like, oh, I found a cool restaurant or whatever. It's got a courtyard. And it's like, I said, is it open to the public? He said, yeah. And I said, gosh, I mean, he said, I know I'm a little worried because I had like 9 or 10 death threats this morning. And I'm like, oh, great. So we have no security. And there I will be with Billy, you know, sitting in the middle of a courtyard with all these investors as an open target for people who just want to see us dead.
Shit. So Billy's still getting threats after all these years. He's still getting threats now that he's out.
I guess so. And so the following week, this is probably the beginning of September, maybe mid-September, he announced to me, oh, I'm going to launch a VIP ticket.
The hell does that mean?
To a music festival somewhere, sometime, and some lineup for $1 million each. And Sawyer, he says he sold 9 of them.
Holy shit.
9. Who are these people? So then if you follow now, he's doing Fire 2.
Is this him blowing smoke up your ass, though? Or do you think that there's truth behind these numbers and stuff?
I mean, Sawyer, like, the feds are following him. Like,
yeah,
they monitor what money comes in and goes out. And so I don't know. Where is the money?
His business license wasn't revoked?
I don't. Someone else is on the business license, not him. But jeez. I'm like, I want to believe him, but I've never seen an email.
Right.
I've never seen anything. So, apparently, he's now doing these Fire pop-ups. So he did one last week, I think, in Miami, where he's people jumping off of helicopters into the harbor, and he's doing these fun survival training things. But it's supposed to lead up to So he did a post you can look at last week where he's like, if you need to ask me when exactly is the festival, where exactly it is, and who exactly is performing, this isn't a festival for you. I mean, who is he targeting? I don't know. He's like, it's all about,
So the $1 million VIP prepayer doesn't deserve to know when to expect the festival. That's crazy.
It's totally crazy. But is it happening? I don't know. But I think he had a little nail in his coffin. I learned that there was an article on page 6 in December where he met somebody in prison who became a key investor in Pirate, which is kind of like now a holding company for fire. And the guy came forward to say that Billy has scammed out of him $650,000 and he's suing him.
Oh my God.
So I don't know. I've never heard of the guy. I don't even know. And it's the pretense is that Billy's utilizing a lot of the money for his own personal lifestyle. And I don't think he's doing that. I have no idea, but it's like, I would have thought I would have heard from him over Christmas and New Year's. We've been pretty close the last year and nothing. So there are many of my advisors who are like, Andy, when he calls, run.
Right.
If he arrives at your house, lock the door. If he, and there are others that say, you never got paid. Fire cost me my career pretty much. And there is that sort of, how would you say? It's like the average person thinks that because I starred in a Netflix documentary that I made millions of dollars. And I got Netflix to do this documentary. I thought no one was getting paid because I set up 2 GoFundMes to try to pay back everybody in the Bahamas. And as it turns out.
So that's how the Netflix documentary was born, after you started the GoFundMes?
Well, it was around the same time.
Okay.
But I basically agreed to do it to drive traffic to the GoFundMes to try to get as much money to the Bahamas as possible. And as it turns out, I'm the only one that didn't get paid for the documentary. And, am I bitter? No, I'm better.
Right.
Well,
but I know for taking that stance.
Well, God, sorry, it was the right thing to do. But now it's like, you talk to any of my financial advisors, like, Andy, now it's time. Like, you traveled around the world doing speaking engagements, donating as much money as you could to these GoFundMes and driving traffic. Like, now it's time for you. You better start raising some money for yourself. You gotta, you gotta work and you gotta have a career. And, I still got hopefully good 10 years left on hosting festivals. And then hopefully you'll find me on an island somewhere.
In the Bahamas?
Well, I don't know. Could be. Craig and I our vision is to run a little resort and a little bar and a restaurant. Yeah. Literally, there could be 8 bar stools, seating for 20, and 10 rooms. But we'd be happy as a clam. And I actually owned a hotel once for a few years, and I loved it. And so that's kind of the vision. So someday you'll see me, and we could potentially call the resort Fire. I don't even care. I'm sure.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Maybe we'll work together one day because partner and I just opened up a 6 tiny home resort off a ski hill in Nova Scotia with a nice 2-bedroom A-frame, things like that. So I'm in that space too, to that scale. I'm not in the let's throw a $3 million party scale, but I'm in the small and less is more type resort space right now.
Well, sir, that's my mantra. Less is more in 2024. That's it.
There you go. Like
and I was reading about what you've been up to. I love it because that
thank you.
Conceptually, people want to have a sense of community. They want to, they want to trim things down a little bit, but they want experiences. They're not going to pull up in the latest Mercedes or BMW. You don't want those people. Like, here's our old Jeep. We're going to a tiny house for the weekend. We're so excited. We're going to be with nature. We might even catch a fish and cook it. We might, that's what I think life should be all about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Like sometimes the simplest things are the most enjoyable, right?
Telling you. Absolutely. Craig and I just came from a nice week in the Caribbean and, just reading a book, snorkeling, walking the beach, eating some fresh fish. Pretty darn nice.
Have you spent time in Santa Teresa, Costa Rica, by any chance, or Costa Rica?
Yes, I rented a place in Costa Rica for a few years in Tamarindo.
Okay, yeah,
Um, yeah, and I actually had a vision of moving down there. This was, I think it was like shortly after 9/11. I was like, wow, this world's pretty fucked up.
yep,
And so I fell in love with Tamarindo. It's become a lot busier now there, but
yeah,
it's a very successful, popular surfing community. We've got friends who are building houses there right now, and I do like Costa Rica, but there aren't that many deals anymore. Sorry, this is what happened. It's like
right,
I moved down there. I'm like, oh, hey, I found a cool villa to rent for
yep,
$2,000 a month. That was luxurious on the beach, only to find that it was getting robbed every 15 minutes. So then I started spending $2,500 a month for a security guard to sit at the end of the driveway. And I was like, oh,
hmm
that wasn't quite the point. And then I'm like,
no,
oh, you know, I'm going to open a little cafe and do something. And everybody that I knew, like, hey, we're moving down. We're going to ship down our 3 Range Rovers. We're building a $2 million house. I'm like, wow, I kind of thought I could build something for 150 grand and kind of have a simple little life running my cafe. That ship
yeah,
has sailed, I think.
yeah.
But Costa Rica is beautiful.
What I really liked about it, and kind of why I brought it up is when I was in Costa Rica, everyone seems so like the whatever the opposite of materialistic is, that's the way they live. And I think it's because they are so poor, the locals, that they can't dare care about the name brand shirt or the hat or the nice vehicle or whatever. Like it really seemed like they were just very happy with what they had. Maybe they wear the same shirt 5 days in a row. Who gives a shit? No one's judging. They don't care. If they don't have a vehicle, maybe they got a bicycle or an old dirt bike that they put together, but that's all they need and they're happy. And it seemed like, almost, not that I'm against capitalism, but it seemed like there was no capitalistic feeling whatsoever there. Everyone was just kind of living their lives, and everyone made time to go see the sunset and catch the waves because that's free, right? And things like that. And it was just such a chill. I wouldn't want to run a business there because like all the employees were so chill and stoned and laid back that like it's like, how do you get anything done? But they were so laid back, so chill, so relaxed. And I found when I spent my 10 days there, a little bit of that rubbed off on me. Like I would kind
Absolutely.
of, I would just feel a little bit less tense and a little bit more relaxed. And there's really not that much there, especially if you're, say, a local working within the local economy. But what is there is the nature and the sunsets and the water and the beach and the people around. And, that's the value versus I find here in North America, sometimes it's the bigger, better vehicle or the bigger, better house or the bigger, better pool or landscape or whatever. Right. It just seemed like their priorities felt a lot more in order when I was there. And that's the only place really I've traveled in the world that I felt it to that level of intensity.
Yeah, I mean, we would always say the term island time, man. Island time. Like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, all right, all right, all right. But I'm like, Jesus, how long does it take to make a grilled cheese sandwich?
Yeah.
Not 1 hour. Like, and that's where Craig and I was like, wow, we could clean up down there, clean
Right.
up by
Right.
just having a place that actually focused on service. But they have no sense of urgency
No.
and they don't need to. But I'm like, oh my gosh, come on, guys. Like,
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
eggs
That.
easy over. Yeah, that's 3 minutes, not 30. And they're just back there. Yep, big spleef. Like, wow. I'm like, wow, am I missing something? Are they not? They're not even working, and we're out here waiting for food at a table.
I know.
And then you
I
see
know.
one of them like, and then they're eating, and then I see like, oh my god, I think that's our server, and they're standing up. He's been eating
That's your
out back.
sandwich.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh wait, and then I see him put in the order. Like
Yeah.
20 minutes have gone by. It's like, oh shit, I didn't even put in the order. Oh yeah, they want eggs and something. I'm like, oh my god! And at that, you're so vested with time. You're like, I'm not leaving. I'm going to eat this thing. I'm like, oh my god, we could. But
Yeah.
they probably live a lot longer, Sawyer.
Yeah.
And that's
And and healthier. Like after leaving there, I was like working out every day and all this stuff. And I get to the beach. Of course, I'm pale and because it's the winter, and I get there and everyone's in wicked shape. Everyone's got flawless tans. And like I'm looking at these stoners on the beach, for lack of a better term, and I'm like, that guy doesn't work out, but his body is fucking 3 times as nice as mine. And I don't know if it's diet, if it's lifestyle or what, but everybody seemed to be in really good shape, and seemed like look to be healthier.
when you analyze like what they're eating half the day, it's like they're eating fresh fruit, they're eating fresh vegetables.
Yeah.
It's not it's not like there's a lot of McDonald's like in Tamarindo. I mean, maybe there is
Right.
today. I hope not, but there's no fast food.
Yeah.
And so that to me is an amazing aspect of like, I'll tell you what, that's a lifestyle. And Craig and I joke, but we're like, we could do it. Like,
Yeah.
and you get to a point where it's like, oh, wow, we made $40 today. That's great. We made $40 more than we made yesterday, and we're fine. And let's have a glass of wine and go down to the beach and watch the sunset. Oh my God. 2 days ago, we made $490. It was we were cranking out jerk chicken. Like, I mean, that to me is going to be kind of an exciting life. Like, how do you, but it's like, geez, I hope the Jeep doesn't break down. I hope that, you don't want to, but as you try to map out your retirement now, it's like, well, where can I go and live half comfortably, for $2,500 a month? Well, there are still places to go.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'll be able to do that, but maybe $5,500 a month, maybe $7,500 a month. I can find a place where I could. Who knows? But in this day and age, who needs all the stress, right?
Mm.
You don't need all the stress. No, that's what they have. They have it right.
You don't need the Fire Festival.
Oh my God! Jesus.
I still want to talk more about that. So you're brought in 6 weeks to go, and what's the situation you're walking into? You said there's like no infrastructure, all that stuff. So all these promises were made. The expectation of what they're hoping you deliver. Like, walk me through the kind of what kind of chaos you're walking into there.
I was there about 4 hours, and the whole team was like, I don't know, let's say there were 10 or 15 kids that were hovering around me, and they're like, Andy, okay, please, 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 give us your honest opinion. Please, just tell us what you really think. Don't sugarcoat it. And I'm like, you know what? And I talked about this before in a lot of speaking engagements. I had 2 older brothers that went to Woodstock, and because it was pre-social media, nobody knew that there were 100 cars backed up on the New York State Thruway. Yep. There were mudslides. There was no water, barely any food. People were dying of drug overdoses every 15 minutes. Like, it was a mess. But it goes down in history as the most successful music festival in the world, Woodstock. Everybody still performed because there was no social media. So it wasn't like, oh my God, there's Daphne with the camera going, oh, check this out. There's a guy with a needle in his arm lying on the ground here, and everybody shouldn't come. No, there was nothing. Nobody knew. And so I used that in my mind as a guiding factor. After 4 hours of walking the island with kids, I said, okay, it'll happen. We can make it happen. Mm-hmm. But you need to change the messaging right now. We're not talking about luxury tents or luxury condos. We're not talking about yachts. Come on down, spend 3 days on a beautiful island with crystal clear water. We'll have enough rosé and Casamigos tequila to last a lifetime. We'll be grilling fish and chicken on the beach. Put on your bathing suit, get your girlfriend in her beautiful bikini, and enjoy some great music, period. You're sleeping in a tent. We would have lost 10%, maybe. But you would have had your expectations managed, going, all right, I'm staying in a fucking tent. Okay,
right.
Well, all right. Well, no. The messaging and Billy agreed to do it, and then the messaging finally got changed about 10 hours before the first guest got there. And he started
and everyone's prepaid, right? Because they had the prepaid cards, right? And the prepaid tickets and all that.
Oh God, yeah.
And who are buying these prepaid cards? Are these like spoiled college kids, or like who's buying these tickets?
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I assumed.
Yeah, and that's why people are like, oh my God, he definitely should have gone to prison. All those poor people. I'm like, what are you talking about? There are a bunch of rich kids that came down to the Bahamas for a weekend.
To party.
Yeah, to party. Like, it wasn't like, oh, they saved for 20 years to go to a religious cure spa in Spain. No, they went to the Bahamas to
get fucked up,
get fucked up, and hear Blink 182 or Little Yachty. Like, where did this go askew, people? I don't know, but it is, we didn't deliver what we were supposed to deliver, and obviously everybody was very unhappy. And the storm was the final nail in the coffin, unfortunately, that basically destroyed the village that we did work hard on trying to build. And that happened about 24 hours before the first guest got there, maybe 36 hours, I don't know. And then it just, you can't make it up. It just went from bad to worse. Every day there was another problem. Every day there was another hurdle. Every day.
This is within the 6 weeks leading up. There was
Yeah.
new hurdles. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the icing on the cake for me was that we had a conference call with Star Catering. And, Star Catering is one of the top caterers based in Philadelphia for the United States. They're amazing. David Starr is an incredible guy. What Billy kept asking, and Grant, the creative marketing officer, our CMO, was like, yeah, we want sushi from Japan. We want Indian food from India.
Wasn't realistic.
And I'm like, come on, guys, just keep the menu simple, for God's sake. No. We're going to do juice bars, and we're going to have rare fruit from, Argentina flown in, and we're going to, oh, gosh. And so the caterer produced, we had a conference call. I think we were less than 3 weeks to the festival. Could have been closer to 2 weeks. Let's just give it 3. And we're on the phone, and they're like, okay, we've got it. Here it is. It's $2.1 million for all this food. And I'm like, oh, my God. And Billy's like, well, can you cut that in half? And they're like, no, your wish list is unbelievable. And I'm like, geez, Billy. And I'm texting, well, we only have really $700,000 in the budget to be able to spend. 2.1 million. I don't know what to do, but we'll just work with them. And then Billy started to say something, and somebody started to say something. He said, you know what? You guys are fired. We don't need you. And he hung up. He hung up. 2 weeks. Just a little more than 2 weeks. We have no food.
That becomes your problem.
For 6,000 people are coming in. 6,000 kids over 2 weekends. We have no food. Nothing. And I'm like, we hang up the phone. I'm just white. And he's like, you can fix this, can't you? I'm like, oh my God. What do you... I was on a plane to Miami the next morning. Every caterer I met with just laughed at me.
Right.
I tried to ship in 36 food trucks, but of course the shipping channels were all being closed off because of a huge regatta that was being hosted that Billy didn't research about, and so couldn't get the food trucks in. It just was, oh my word. Then I was in Nassau partnering with one of the top catering chefs there.
So you were flying all over the U.S. just trying to make something happen in the final 2 weeks. Anything. Yeah.
And I ended up buying all the restaurant equipment from Miami, getting a special dispensation. It was all used restaurant equipment, a special dispensation to get the shipping lane open so I could get the freighter through with all the equipment for the festival. Oh my gosh. And then I just, obviously.
Did the economics, the business model, was it supposed to be profitable? He raised $29 million, going to spend that. How many guests were coming? What were these guests paying? Were you guys supposed to turn a profit in the first year, or was this kind of a long-term play?
No, it was pretty set for a profit for year one.
Okay.
And that was predominantly focusing on all the VIP experiences. So, you probably know, Sawyer. It's just not my thing. But all these kids, oh, I can have a table that you sit on beanbags, sandbags. It's near the stage, but I can have 2 bottles of Casamigos, $1,500. Absolutely, yeah. And this bottle service, I'm like, what? The numbers started to go crazy, where the profitability was there.
It was there.
And it was all about these different experiences that we were creating for all the guests. And everybody wanted to be one up, one better than the other. So it was like, okay, you could have this tent. You can have this. You can do that. And they're like, I'm in. I want that. I want this. Mm. That's where the, upselling was calculated out to be pretty darn profitable.
So do you think, in hindsight and in theory, given enough time, if you had 12 months notice, whatever, perfect variables, do you think that this whole concept could have been executed and profitable and been a good business move, in hindsight? If you had the proper planning and all that stuff, do you think if someone picked up okay, here's a easier scenario. Someone buys the brand Fire, and they try to execute on all the promises that Billy made, but they actually do it properly. Do you think that there's legs there?
Huge. Oh my God.
Why do you think nobody's done that?
I don't know. I'm not, but they're looking at it. A lot of big players are looking at it.
Gotcha.
So it's going to happen.
Okay.
But yeah, they're crazy because It doesn't matter where I go, what I do. They're like, oh, you're the guy from Fire? I'm like, how do you know about Fire? They're like, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. Everybody always seems to have some kind of a connection. But at the end of the day, the brand Fire, I mean, I can't say it's as strong as Nike or whatever, but it's pretty damn strong in pop culture today. In every country, you mention FYRE, Firefest, they all know it. And so that's worth a lot of money. And what I would hope is that whoever does end up jumping in, that I will partner with them, and that, yes, you'll end up having some of the chicest glamping tents you've ever seen in your life, but supporting the local community wherever we do it. Right. You're going to have one of the best cheese sandwiches you've ever had in your fucking life, too. The fact that I'm known for that pathetic, poor cheese sandwich when I designed like one of the best food programs you've ever seen in your life. And it was only just one drunk kid and his girlfriend who I suggested, go get a sandwich from the employee tent because you've had too much to drink. And then it went viral around the world. That's what stopped Fire, was the cheese sandwich. Because if it hadn't gone viral so quickly, do you realize, sir, so Nassau in the Bahamas is a 10-minute airplane away. Atlantis, probably one of the most expensive resorts there. That's where we had a big part of our lineup. I can't say, but let's just say that Kardashians were there, and Blink-182 was there, and Lil Yachty was there, and I mean, who knows? But Kanye was there. I don't know. But literally, they were 10 minutes away that they could have flown in and started performing on this $2 million stage on the beach, and people would have just said, you know what? Fuck it. Take your shirt off. You're in your bathing suit. You're drinking Casamigos. You're eating a fish sandwich. You're like, this is the best time I've ever had. It was that close. And people always say, you sure, Andy? I'm like, yeah, I was there. Yeah. I know how close it was. And yeah, you get there and you go, what the fuck happened to this village? Well, we had a storm a couple nights ago. Okay. And then you'd be surprised. If the message was delivered properly, how many kids would all get together and go, all right, let's try to figure out all this tents over here and blah, 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 blah. Instead of, the spoiled rich kids arriving going, I don't want that mattress, and throwing things everywhere. And Billy panicked, as you know, and stood up in a box and said, pick your own tents. And I'm like, you didn't just say that. Like, everybody was assigned a tent. Like, you were arriving with 3 friends, 2 girls and a guy. You picked out a queen bed, 2 twins, and a cot. Like, everything was kind of designed for something. Oh, no. It became total shit show. People just ripping through. And meanwhile, you saw, listen, it poured rain. It blew 100 miles an hour sideways. Like, we had a lot of damage. So, but we still were able to accommodate, like, I think we had enough for 1,000 people comfortably. And we would continue the next day to try to rebuild another part of the village. We would, and then for the following weekend, I think we would have been okay. But no.
So this was supposed to be a 2-weekend experience, like a 2-week experience? 2-weekend experience?
2 weekends, yeah. 3 days.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, another week worth of productivity would have made a big difference for you for the second weekend.
Absolutely.
Or each day, I guess, But the storm, that sucks. That's out of everybody's control.
Exactly. Yeah. And then to make life really bad, most of the world doesn't know, we hired a cruise ship a week out because we just didn't have places for people to sleep. A lot of employees and influencers. So I hired a cruise ship for $1 million out of Fort Lauderdale. Cruise ship came over, but because it was regatta in the Bahamas, there were no docks. So the cruise ship had to anchor offshore, and it couldn't come into a dock. And because it was anchored offshore and the storm came in, it was so rough and so windy that they couldn't run the launches to get anybody to shore. So almost all of my employees were stuck out on the cruise ship and couldn't get to shore. And there's some of them were texting going, do you want us to swim? I'm like, oh, great, yeah. And get eaten by sharks like halfway in? No, I don't need that.
It's a liability.
As part of my legacy with Fire is bad enough. So, it's just, you couldn't make it up. Crazy.
Unreal.
Mm-hmm. But I'm still standing, sir. Standing today.
Yeah, no, you are. And it's, I like the spin you put on it because, like you said, it's kind of an inspirational, like you're normalizing failure, which all of us entrepreneurs and, not even entrepreneurs, but everybody has failures in their lives. And it's important that you push through that. And I think that you've really become a symbol of owning, that you were a part of something that failed, and then, owning that, speaking on that, and then moving past it and doing good things from there on out, like you were before the event,
Yeah, it's important for sure. And that's what one of my key speeches is talking about failure, and that, Hollywood doesn't like to talk about failure, either does Wall Street, but people fail every day. And you learn more from your failures than you do your successes. So I say to kids today, keep getting out there and failing. Keep failing. Something's going to work, and be passionate about what you're doing, and fill your heart with great things and spread love. And, why should social media be a platform that's always criticizing and always talking bad things about people? Doesn't need to be that way, and that's hopefully if I can leave the world a better place, it's going to be where I've been able to kind of demonstrate to people, my mother would always say, kill them with kindness, and I think that's, at the end of the day, the best thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I think that's a great message to promote. And it's funny you touch on social media. It really seems like social media has been heavy and negative and controversial and those things, right? I'm assuming that's what feeds the algorithm, and that's, it motivates people to post that type of way and that type of stuff. But it can definitely be heavy. And to me, I really appreciate the positive content that I'm seeing, and the people that are, sharing those positive messages, even though that's not maybe what's going to like vibrate through the viral channels of social media, but it's just the right thing to do. It's kind of like your attitude after the 2014 show. You've seen all those plastic cups, and you're just like, this is the right thing to do, is to take this shifting gears. And even though maybe, I'm sure that added a level of complexity to your business. Absolutely. And you probably had resistance with clients too, saying, well, geez, the ethical way is more expensive, or whatever.
Absolutely. So that was a challenge where some of my clients were like, so this hocus pocus stuff you're doing, I'm like, hocus pocus? Just eliminate plastic and support local communities. Why don't we just start there? Yeah. And do we have to have 50 trucks out in the parking lot and all idling for 2 days because they want to? Turn the fucking trucks off, for God's sake.
Right.
I mean, like, all right, Andy, you're right. But it does make a difference, Sawyer. I mean, many, Jane Goodall, amazing Jane Goodall, did a keynote speech for me in California when I hosted a dinner for Leonardo DiCaprio, where I raised almost $9 million for climate change. And she got up on stage. She had like her fake little stuffed animal chimpanzee. It was totally adorable. She was talking chimpanzee. No one could understand her. And then she finally said, listen, I just tell people, if everybody in the world would just do one little thing every day, edging towards sustainability, just one little thing. Don't get the plastic bag, bring your shopping bag. Hey, how about carrying a water bottle? One little thing every day. This world will be a different place in no time at all.
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to do. One little thing every day, and maybe make 5 cents every day.
Oh, good for you. Yeah. No, that's exciting. So what's in the future for you before we wrap up? What's next for you?
I am working on several festivals right now. I'm going to be featured on a reality show.
Reality show?
Oh, yeah.
What's that? Can you talk about that? Or
I can't say a word, as NDAs are crazy, but
of course,
it's a pretty big network launching it. And I'll be somewhere far away for shooting it for almost 4 weeks. Coming up one day soon. And it'll be aired hopefully in the fall.
Is that going to be another Netflix show? Do you know? Or
no, it's not Netflix, but maybe Netflix would buy it. But no, it's already been bought by a big network.
Cool.
So I don't know. I don't want to I get nervous because, the typical reality TV star becomes famous quickly, and then they become alcoholics, drug addicts, and then they're broke after 1 year. I just don't want that trajectory, Sawyer.
You've already did the famous part, though. If you were going to bust out, it would have been after the first viral moment. It would have been after the first Netflix show. Then, you've already weathered that storm.
Yes. So I think I couldn't, as I had to go through like a series of psychological testing, and oh my God,
really?
What to do for these shows, hysterical. But, as I'd say, well, it couldn't get much worse. Like, I'm known as the blowjob king around the world. Like, how much worse could it get? So
tell us that story. My viewers we gotta hear that story. How the hell did that happen?
Oh my God! So quickly, we'll close with this story. So it was like a horrible, horrible. I would run every meeting for fire employees, and there was like 400 of us. And one afternoon, I finished a grueling meeting where I literally would like finish the meeting and I'd walk outside onto a private terrace and like burst into tears, like going, "Oh my God, can I do this? I can do this. I'm going to do it. I know I can do it." So phone rings and it's someone saying, "Hey, Billy's got a favor he wants to ask of you." And I'm like, "Sure, what's that?" And they're like, "Well, he's wondering if you could like take a big one for the team." I'm like, "Oh my God, like I take a big one for the team every day." It's like, "Well, this is kind of different." I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Well, would you go blow the head of customs to free up these 200,000 plastic Evian bottles?" And I'm like, "Oh, no. You're kidding, right?" They're like, "No, we're not kidding." I'm like, "He's joking." Like, first of all, does he know the head of customs is gay? I don't think he's gay. It's like, "Oh yeah, he's pretty sure. He's gay." So he just wants you to go down there and suck his dick and then, and come back. I'm like, oh God, after working for 35 years as a very successful event planner, this is what my life has ended up being, a blowjob. Great. But then I said, one dick I could handle, whatever. I don't care. Like, it wasn't like he said, "Go find 9 vaginas, sleep with them." It's just like one dick, get it done. And
Billy would have did that if that was the case.
Yeah. So I'm like, whatever. Okay. So I I got raced back to my villa. I'm like, "What do you wear for like a blowjob for the?" I don't know. Like for the.
So was this confirmed with that customs officer? Like that's what he wanted, or were they just going on a theory, like, "Oh, maybe he'll like this and let the water go through," or did he say like, "Yes, if you do this, I'll let the water go through"?
Oh no, it was total theory.
It was all in theory. Wow.
Yeah. So I get there.
So you could have got down there, and he would have been like, "No deal." What do you know?
Well, I did get there. I went down, but I didn't go down all the way, obviously. So. I'm like, the meeting starts like, I said, "I need to talk about the Evian." It's like, "Well, Andy, I really like you." I'm like, "Oh God." And I'm like, "Well, I like you too, but not, not in that way. You're a little overweight. You're not quite my type. Like a little old." Oh, so he just said, "Listen, I'll free up all the water. It's 175 grand. Promise you'll pay me on Monday." This was Friday. I said, "No problem. We'll have, cash flow will be strong at the end of the first weekend." And so he released the water. And I didn't have to do the deed. But somehow I mistakenly told the damn story to the Netflix guys. And then that became the highlight of the documentary, which I had no idea it would. But it did. So
that became a meme for a long time. That meme is probably still circulating.
Oh yeah, it was up last week for a couple things. It's just constantly like, I'm like, "Oh, there I am again." Yeah, don't worry, Andy King will do it. He'll fix it. Yeah, we'll call Andy. He'll do it. Yeah. Like, "Oh no, please."
Well. You see, you're committed to your work. I'll put it to you that way. You wanted to see the festival through.
Absolutely. You know what? I'm the ultimate team player.
The ultimate team player.
That's the name of the game. So it's like, what do I? That's why I have my funny little things on Cameo that I do. And, and I try to keep my @Real Andy King, my Instagram that tries to drive some positivity and a few smiles here and there. And Craig and I are often a big kind of positive influence for the intergenerational gay community. And, we just try to spread love. And that's what you do, Sawyer. That's why I love you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's... there's a lot of negative in the world, and I certainly don't want to contribute to that. So I definitely try to do my best to keep things, positive and build people up and inspire people and do my best every single day. And no different than you and Craig and the good group of people out there.
We love it.
Yep.
Well, Sawyer, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Andy. I really appreciate it. I was happy we were able to make this happen, and I know that this is definitely Probably the most unique interview that I've done so far. So I really think people are going to like this one.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, I often add that unique quality. Yeah.
You certainly do.
Just keep your pants on. Yeah.
Sounds good, man. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And, we'll stay in touch.
Okay, cool, sir.
The Sawyer Hannay Show.